Morning, all. All right, starting off talking about the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers, a team that has not been overly active in terms of picking up big name players or anything like that. There's been talk about whether or not Tarasenko might be wanting to come back. Maybe that's why he switched his agents. But cap space is an issue for the New York Rangers right now, and I don't think it's as simple as just going out and giving Tarasenko some money. So currently, according to Cap Friendly, they have $6,175,417 in cap space. However, they have two high-profile restricted free agents. Lafreniere, probably a 2-year, I would think a 2-year, 3-year bridge deal for Lafreniere, something like that. But Keandre Miller's going to get paid, and Keandre Miller should. He's a very good defenseman, and I think he's going to make himself a healthy amount of money out of whatever this deal becomes. But it's going to take up a lot of that or all of that 6.1 million when both players are signed. I'd be very surprised if Miller himself doesn't eat most of that $6.175 million. Now, this is a team that's had some regular season success, and in the 2022 playoffs, they had postseason success as well. 2023's postseason ended much sooner, but in terms of points, they went from 110 to 107. They were 12th in goals for and 4th in goals against. So it becomes a matter of how do you find more goals? And that isn't always an easy thing to answer. Now, there's some speculation about whether or not guys like Kakko and Lafreniere are going to play bigger roles this year. We shall see. The exits, there's a number of players on this list. I don't know how many of them are really going to be huge difference makers. Tarasenko, again, could still end up rejoining the team if they can figure out how to make the cap space for him. Kane is out, and we don't know what Kane's status is, even though there's talk about him maybe being ahead of the expected recovery time from hip surgery. But I can't see him being back with the Rangers, even if he was ready to go in October. Tyler Mott, I'm a little bit surprised they let him go, and then when I look at their depth chart, I think, well, yeah, they don't really need Mott back there. Same with Carpenter. Defensively, Mikkola signs a pretty rich contract in the offseason. We'll see how that goes. But this is a team that does have some depth on the blue line as well. Hayek is out. That's a blue liner that's out for them. And Halak, backup goaltender. And it's interesting with Halak because I think this season with the Rangers was the best year he's had in at least 3 years. 3, maybe 4 years for Halak. So those are your exits, but this is still a pretty solid team. Starting with Chris Kreider on the left-hand side, 29 goals, 63 assists, 92 points. So the goal scoring dropped off, yes, but 90-plus points is nothing to sneeze at. He is one of their best forwards, and obviously with just the 29 goals, he didn't set the world on fire with power play goals this year the way he did the previous season, but he can always bounce back in that regard. Artemi Panarin, we know Panarin's contract, and I don't think Panarin's contract is bad, although I've started seeing that comment here and there. It is remarkable how quickly playoff success or not getting playoff success will make a contract look good or bad. So last summer, the Panarin contract looked okay. This year, they didn't have the success in the playoffs, so maybe it doesn't look as good. Lafreniere, the number 1 pick in 2020, and of course, there's been a lot of debate about whether or not he's a bust. I think he's just slower to develop, and that does happen, right? And I don't know if he's ever going to be a superstar in the league, but I do think there's a solid top 6 forward there, and maybe we start to see more of that this year, right? So if somebody decides to give Lafreniere and Kakko more time on the power play and give them more of a chance to prove themselves, we'll see how they do. VC, of course, is there. Good, solid depth player. Bleed is there as well. Will Cooley, we'll see whether or not he gets into many games this year. He was a number 60 pick in 2020, so it's right about time for him to come up. Elson's on an expiring contract, depth player. Othman, number 16 pick in 2021. There's been some excitement around Othman. Does he push towards a job? And again, when you have a team that's capped out, like the Rangers are, having guys from within develop, so you might be able to trade maybe a veteran to free up some cap space. That works out pretty well if you're able to make it work. Then in the middle, you've got Zibanejad, 39 goals, 52 assists, 91 points. Love Mika Zibanejad's game. If the goal scoring was a little more consistent, he would be a 50-goal scorer. Trocheck, solid year for him with the New York Rangers. I think he had 64 points himself. Then you've got Hedel, the number 21 pick in 2017. And of course, he was labeled as a bust not that long ago either. I haven't heard that as much lately. But again, player joins the NHL, they find their niche, and sometimes it's being a star, and sometimes it's more of a support role. Hedel, I think, still can be a number 2 center, though. Bonino's been added. There's some depth there, and of course, some Stanley Cup experience as well. Lecision, still there. And Brzezinski. Brzezinski has an expiring contract, and Korzak maybe gets called up and gets into some games this year. On the right-hand side, the big addition, of course, is Blake Wheeler. And Wheeler signing a very team-friendly deal as well. And it's a 1-year deal. We'll see how things go, but it is huge for the Rangers to add somebody who should be able to score, I would say, 60 points minimum. I would say Wheeler should be able to score 60 points this year with the Rangers. Capo Caco, number 2 pick in 2019, much like Lafreniere, a little bit slow to develop, but I think that's the way it was designed, that they were brought in, they played fewer minutes, and it's just this gradual climb, and I think people don't like that it's as gradual as it is. But we'll see if Caco is able to go out there and prove himself this year or what happens. Barclay Goodrow, Tyler Pitlick has been added, depth on the right-hand side. So Rem Pitlick in the Montreal video yesterday, Tyler Pitlick today. We're Pitlicked out. And then there's Belzile, who's been added from the Montreal Canadiens, depth forward strictly. Riley Nash, if you're wondering where Riley Nash has been playing, he's right here. He's right here on the board. Sakura, depth there as well with in the forward group, and of course in the first round they drafted Gabe Perreault, who projects to be a right winger in the National Hockey League, and that is exactly where the New York Rangers could use a player, especially once you got to think it'll be a couple years before Perreault comes in and plays, the number 23 pick and all. And a couple years from now, they'll probably need him to jump in. And Perreault was a fast rising prospect in the draft. Could end up being a steal at 23 for the Rangers. Then you get to the blue line. Really impressed by the blue line. Of course, they were 4th in goals against. Lindgren and Fox, the linchpins of the blue line. Fox, 12 goals, 60 assists, 72 points. I would say that when I'm looking at the Lindgren draft class and how fans rank it, Jay Fresh did fan rankings, and I looked at it and I was like, wow, Lindgren's really underrated. And that's just me. I feel that he's underrated. But again, your defenseman that doesn't score a bunch of points, that is usually the case. Lindgren will play no matter how hurt he is, which I understand that can be a dangerous game to play, but it's just how he plays. Keandre Miller, the number 22 pick in 2018, is right there on the chart as well, and we know how good he can be. Likely again paired with Trouba. Trouba's going to throw a hit or two that people don't like. We can all act surprised when that happens. You have Eric Gustafsson, who's been added from Toronto. Of course, he didn't get much of a footing in Toronto, but he had a solid season going in Washington before that. Schneider, number 19 pick in 2020. So the 2020 draft was decent, really. You got Lafreniere, you got Schneider, you've got Cooley here as well. That's not a bad haul, just those 3 alone. Schneider, solid defenseman. Zachary Jones, number 68 pick in 2019 by the New York Rangers as well. Hollowell's been added from the Toronto organization, and we'll see how many games he gets into. He impressed Toronto fans and media with his performance when he did get called up last year by the Leafs. Ben Harper, depth defenseman. Connor Mackey, much the same, and an addition for them from the Calgary Flames. So we'll see if he gets into any games. We know there's going to be injuries. There always is. Every team in the league's got them. And having depth and guys that can jump into your lineup when it happens is important. I think the Rangers have that both on the forward group as well as on the blue line. Then you get to goaltending. Now, Igor Shesterkin is still the man. Absolutely still the man. 37, 13, and 8, 9, 16 save percentage. That's a down year compared to the year before. And I don't expect him to get back to those lofty heights he had the previous season. But I also think that 916, probably a little low. I would say he'll be 920 this year. Igor's just too good, and I think that we're going to see him play a ton of games. Now, Jonathan Quick as the backup is an interesting decision because Jonathan Quick's numbers really fell off last year. His win-loss record with Vegas was good, but his overall numbers really took a tumble. So if he's able to turn that around, and when you're in your late 30s, that doesn't normally happen, but let's just say he does, and the Rangers are going to look brilliant. But if his numbers continue to tumble, then you start asking some questions about their goaltending and all of that. Louis Domingue's the number 3. Domingue can jump in and play some games here and there as he needs to. But it's really, really important that Shesterkin stays as healthy as possible. Because if it was Quick and Domingue that was the tandem, if Shesterkin was out for a few weeks, with how competitive the Metro is, that's really all it takes. Or could be all it takes anyways. And so we'll see. The New York Rangers are a fun team to watch. I always enjoy the excitement that a Rangers game has. Usually a lot of speed and a lot of scoring chances, and we'll probably see a lot more of that this year. And yeah, again, 110 points one year, 107 the next. I do think the Rangers are a contender, but that's the great thing about the NHL right now. There are a lot of teams that are really close, and so we'll see how the Rangers do this year. Let me know your thoughts. And I don't know that they're done, but I think that the cap space issue, until they have Lafreniere and Miller signed, it does restrict what they're able to do. At least I think so. But let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.